So this presentation will cover two tools that are similar in terms of function, but distinct in Canvas. And we'll talk about what situations one might be useful in and the other not so much at the end. I'm very interested in some feedback on that since they are relatively new to me. I only recently found out about what they can do. Immersive Reader is I believe it's a Microsoft product, and it exists elsewhere. It can be compatible with many other programs, and we had it in the background in Canvas for a while, but it was only recently that I enabled it. The other feature is called alternative formats, and I believe that is something that is native to Canvas and has always been there, or at least was directly inserted into Canvas by the Canvas folks. This is one of my course shells. The first thing I've noticed as I've been going through different types of Canvas content to familiarize myself with these tools is that they're not all present. They're not both present on all pages, or not present in all places where there is page-like content. Not all places where the rich content editor has been in use. And that includes things like, syllabus page, front page, discussion prompts, and assignment descriptions. They don't both appear in all of those cases. So for example, here, this is a syllabus page. And in this case, only Immersive Reader shows up here in the upper right corner. However, if we go to an actual page, now they both appear. Immersive Reader in the same place, and then alternative formats is just a little icon next to the page title. Let's take a look at alternative formats first. So there are 4 options here. I am unfamiliar with electronic Braille, and I wouldn't know how to demonstrate it, but I'm assuming that someone who knows, who has need of it, will be familiar with that file type, and will have a program that is able to open it. Rebecca, do you know anything about that?
Not really. I'm not super versed in Braille because it's not as common as it used to be.
That makes sense. There are more alternatives these days, aren't there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's there in the off chance that somebody might need it. I think the EPUB download is also unlikely to be used very frequently. If somebody wanted to read a Canvas page on something like a Kindle, maybe they would make use of it. Not very likely. But the audio version, the MP3 translation, could be very useful to some people. Perhaps a person who just prefers consuming text content that way would find it useful. What I've noticed is that it will include a note, an audio note, if the page includes something like a video, as this one does, or a link. It will make note that there is an external link in that location, or if you've embedded an image in the page, it will also include that. What is interesting to note is that if you have if you've done what is the proper thing to do as far as accessibility goes, and you have given your image an alternate description or alt text, that will be included in the audio version. So that it makes it more important to include an image description that actually says something about what it is. There are philosophies for how to do that best, and I am not an expert on those, but you would, supposing you had posted an image of somebody sitting on a bench in front of the Eiffel Tower, it could be a very simple description. Man sitting in front of a bench on Eiffel Tower would probably be enough. You don't need to go into detailed description about planes in the sky or dogs running around in the background. But you might also, you would want to include slightly more detail than just Eiffel Tower. Now, I only started looking at this fourth option, the Beeline reader, a couple of days ago, and it is interesting. And this is another thing that I imagine there is some specialized use for this, perhaps for people who are sight impaired. But Rebecca, do you know if this is a if there is a particular group that this is geared toward, or if it's just intended to make it more readable?
I mean, off the bat, I would say maybe folks with ADHD, because there's less on the page and they're kind of color coded depending on what they're having stand out.
That makes sense. So there are a few options here, and they all do basically the same thing to create some varying shades in the text as a sort of some sort of substitute to how it might flow for a person if it was being read aloud to them. I would guess. Those are the alternative format options. Now let's take a look at Immersive Reader. And there are a few more things that you can do with this. This is the default view, and it essentially just is a blown up text copy of whatever the page is. Note that it does not include links of any kind, so that is a drawback. But you can have, this is where you can have it played back, and it can do what the MP3 option in alternative formats does, but in that case, you would need to download the MP3 file and read along with what's on the text if you wanted to do both. Here, you don't need to take that step. Do you two hear that?
Barely, but we can't really understand what they're saying. But since
Okay.
it's going on the screen,
yeah, that's how that works. There are a couple options here. You can speed up the voice speed, including when you are playing that back. And there are only the female and male options, no British accents or anything like that, which would be fun. The text preferences are self-explanatory. I'm not sure what this does, actually. Okay, that includes the formatting from Canvas itself, if you have that toggled on. But now here's where we start getting into the fancier options. You can, if you were to use this tool for, say, English ESL teaching purposes, you could start showing the different parts of speech in a chunk of text. It's pretty cool, actually. You can even label those. the picture dictionary feature is something I haven't messed with much, but what I find is that it only shows up in certain places for certain words. But basically it's trying to be illustrative. Let's turn this off. Now, probably the most powerful and coolest option is the ability to translate into basically any language. Let's go to Spanish. And if you do it word by word, it's just going to give you the the single word translation. If you want the whole document, you toggle that option, and then you can play that all back to yourself. And they're the same voice options. Now, my main question for you, and I was hoping that there were would be more people here so we could have a deep discussion about this, is how widely we want to advertise this option, and whether it has potential drawbacks, the fact that it's there. I have talked with the beta faculty on the accessible technology team, and they mostly think that it's not really a big problem, that that people who are learning English also have this option. And after thinking about it a little bit, that makes sense to me as well. After all, there are, if people want to translate text, they also have Google Translate, which from what I can tell is very powerful. And the beta faculty argued that it was that any tool that increases comprehension is a good tool. What I'm not sure about is how good the translations actually are. Unfortunately, my Spanish is pretty rusty, and I have not yet run this particular page, for example, by anyone who could tell me how good it is. Just at a glance, it looks grammatically correct, but I'm not sure.
I did notice, Mattias, that they gave you the option of Spanish Spain and Spanish Mexico.
Yes, there is that.
So, yeah.
I think there's a third option too. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I would assume that for most of our students, Mexican Spanish would be the best option.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive how many options there are here.
Oh. Yeah. Now, let me just clarify. So this really only works with content that you write yourself to put in. This isn't something that would automatically, so for example, my PowerPoints sort of thing.
Right.
Or,
As
you
far
know.
as I can tell so far, it will only work with text content that you have put in.
Okay, okay.
I need to test whether it would read a PDF that has been OCR'd, but I know that it's not going to read images that haven't been submitted to any kind of treatment, for example, and it has no idea what's in any of the videos I've posted on these pages. Neither of those tools do. So it's excellent for giving students more options as far as text content goes. Not so good if you have a bunch of external links and other interactive content in your course. Rebecca, what are your thoughts on how to make these tools known to students? And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
Oh, that's
I know that
okay. I
you
don't
probably
mind.
have some thoughts on this.
I do have thoughts because we do have some students. It seems like a lot of my students who are coming from like Moses Lake High School, they are very already familiar with Immersive Reader because it's in Word. And so having that it's, you know, it's a Microsoft product, they've used it if they use a text to speech program. So I like that it's there. The alt formats, I wish they had a better button because I don't think that's super at least it's not visual. And I see like folks who use screen readers, if you use JAWS or something, it might read that. But if you're downloading something, I'm sure the screen reader will pick that up. But if they already have like the EPUB version, if you use JAWS would be great. Or other screen readers. So I think what I'm going to do is folks who, when I'm doing the intake process and talk about a text to speech program for those who it would benefit, I'm gonna point out the Immersive Reader and kind of talk about Canvas. And then the folks who I already am making audio files for their textbooks, I'll walk them through that as well.
Okay.
That's going to be very helpful. Well, for me, it's going to be extremely helpful because I'm going to have to create less audio files instead of reaching out to the instructor and having them send me or going into Canvas and getting the information and making audio files. The student can just do Immersive Reader.
Okay.
Except for content, like Teresa pointed out. But yeah, I think it's going to be helpful. And a lot of my students, I talk about resources, even if it's not an accommodation. So I can always point it out to other students as well. And just kind of say, hey, do you know about these other resources and add it to my list? Because I talk about the STEM Center and the tutoring and all of those with all of my students. And so I'll just add this to the list to talk to them about.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think I'll create a tutorial to add to my YouTube channel
Okay.
covering both of these, and I'll send you a link to that.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's amazing the range of options that the two tools give you.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I know, Teresa, if PowerPoint has an Immersive Reader too, but sometimes it's like hidden.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess for my purposes, my PowerPoints are mostly generated from the publisher's side, and I always choose the ones that are accessible, which means they have like the options for, and some of them have already built in for a lot of the technical drawings, and the anatomy drawings, so that's already in there. And I just simply go in and I just edit the hell out of them because, and try to, reconfigure them. But, and I have a few that I've generated myself, but for a lot of my lecture material, and then my panoptos are going to be generated from those. My philosophy being, if I'm making you buy this textbook or this bundle, I'm going to use it. I'm going to have you use everything in it. So
yeah.
But they already have. They give you the options of accessible PowerPoints, which is nice. That part's built in. But I have some other. Older documents and some PDFs and things that I put up that are of varying degrees of accessibility, and sometimes I try to go back and address that secondarily, but yeah.
Well, thanks for showing up, you two.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't a
Yeah,
total
thank
bust.
you.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And thanks for the feedback. We'll post this on my YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
See ya.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Where's my mouse?